we're supposed to have more light.
Okay, we are live. If you want to try and start your watch parties, you can do that.
Okay, I've got to figure out how to do this. Not here, just here. Start again. I did it.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And for those of us out there who are commemorating the Sabbath, a happy Sabbath to you and your families and your loved ones. And we are here once again this afternoon with me, your host, Natasha at Girl Positive. And I have a lovely set of panelists this afternoon joining us in a really interesting and I think a topic that really resonates and affects all of us, no matter what race, what gender. Definitely it matters what age you are, but it's for all of us. And I'm sure and I hope, and it's my prayer that we will all in this discussion be learning something this afternoon, but maybe some of the things we'll be sharing is maybe questions that you have. If not, and there's something that resonates with you and you'd like to drop us a question, please feel free to do so in the comment section on the Girl Positive Facebook page. So without any further ado, I would like to do an opening prayer. And then immediately after that, I would love to ask our panelists here this afternoon just to introduce themselves. So if you just bow your heads with me. Dear Father God, thank you for this opportunity that we have to come together and discuss something that really a lot of us can relate to, and that is the question on love and relationships and connection, not just with each other, but ultimately and in the end also with you. Help us to navigate this topic as best we can and help us to share something this afternoon that might potentially be able to help someone else. I pray that you may bless our discussion, that you may just give us an enjoyable time, that all our friends and peers and colleagues that are listening in will also enjoy this session with us. This we pray in your name. Amen.
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 Okay, so once again, I'd like to welcome everyone out there on Facebook Live, wherever you are with your families, friends, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, brothers, sisters, listening in on our discussion this afternoon. Our topic is true love, fact or fiction, question mark. I think our couples will be attempting to answer this question in different ways and from different perspectives. And I think that's what will make it so interesting this afternoon. And so I'm going to stop my chattering and I will give the time over to our couples to just introduce themselves. So couples, please state your name, maybe a little bit about your family, what you do for a living and where you are from.
So
Very
we
nice.
are the Souls family, the Ezra Souls family. I am Berenice, and I'm a teacher at Adventist High School, which I'm very happy to be at. And my husband is the pastor, associate pastor at Silverleaf SDA Church.
I'll give the info on the family. Greetings to everybody from the foot of Helderberg Mountain. And it's our privilege to be on this panel and speak to you about this very pertinent subject. We have one son, 7 years old, and one daughter, 3 years old. So, and also we're going in for 10 years of marriage now. And yeah, we love this church. We love the young people. Yeah, we love what this church stands for and also the mission of this wonderful organization. So it's our privilege to be part of this panel, and I'll go positive here this afternoon. God bless you.
We are Richard and Jenny Lovemore. We are very privileged to be able to live in the country. We live in the Eastern Cape. I grew up here. We raised our family out here in the country, which was really a great blessing. Jen and I have been married for almost 30 years. Another month and a few days, it will be 30 years. And we are certainly have tasted what true love is. And we've experienced the joy of that experience with God. Our true love experience has got some fruits, as in 3 precious children. Our daughter Ashley, she's the oldest. She's happily married and in Canada. How old is she? 25, 26. And we have 2 sons, Jaden and Ryan. Jaden is 23. He's a qualified helicopter pilot. At the moment, he's out of work. And our younger son is busy doing his flight training at this point. So Jen and I have a passion for this topic. We have a passion for relationships and people's well-being. And we have had the privilege of here and there around the country. And it's a great privilege to be with you this afternoon, Natasha, and thank you for inviting us.
It's a pleasure. And I must say, I have such a fond memory. And I think Berenice and Ezra, and maybe some of us out there who are watching, have fond memories of the Lovemores and going to Amen conference every year and coming into a room and there's like 50 young people rushing through the doors hoping to get a space in one of these sessions. And I know that it was always an exciting thing to see whether or not people would eventually pay off during lunch break, or the guys would, you know, chat some of the girls up and try some of the new things that they were taught or that they realized in these sessions. And I think it was just an interesting time to not just be meeting new people or to have your confidence boosted a bit to meet new people, but also that the space was created to not just learn from you and your experience, but to try and apply some of the principles you were sharing with us. And so this afternoon, our discussion will be facilitated by a few questions that I would like to pose to you, and then have us, you know, get into the discussion about it. And so I'd just like to remind everyone, or those of you who are hopping onto the live stream, that our topic for this afternoon is true love, fact or fiction, ? And the first question I would like to pose to us is, true love, what is it? I know that some of us are familiar with ideas like people saying, or reading out of certain books or from certain authors, it's a holy principle, or it's not infatuation, or it's not feelings. So to both couples, true love, what is it?
Who's going first? Why don't the souls go first?
Yeah, true love. There's such a lot of definitions nowadays going around for it, and I think, as I said in my introduction, why this is so important. And I cannot go beyond what is written. And we, as a pastor in ministry, I have recognized that if true love is not found in Christ, it becomes really difficult to get or give a better definition thereof. True love is a gift from Jesus. God is love. He's the wellspring of love. He's the source of love. And anything outside of that, or once we decide to move from outside of that to any other form of love, and obviously we're not talking about I love a cup of tea on a certain day, but deep, meaningful love, it becomes, to use the word dangerous, it becomes harmful. It can really hurt one another. True love for me is when I look at my wife Berenice and I look at her and I see this is a child of a king. If I recognize this is Christ living in her, it gives me a different perspective. It gives me a different responsibility of how I ought to love her. So, is there a one sentence answer to this question? True love, what is it? That is the million-rand question, and somehow whatever we say sounds like a 5 rand answer. But the truth is, as I have noted, that it is a principle. It's not a feeling, and we'll get to the knots. But true love does come from God, and it needs to be said from there. Love moves. Or I don't know if you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I just think like from a life science perspective and from the creator perspective, God created us in his image. And as Ezra said, God is love. And so if he created us like him, the true love that we are supposed to have is that godly love. So before we can actually get to what is love within the relationship, we need to understand how to love God and to experience God's love before we can even move on to a relational love with other humans.
Someone once asked me, it was a young couple who was visiting with us and they were not yet married, but we were sitting down on the couch one evening and the young man said to me, what's the best thing about being married? And I said, being loved in spite of who I am, in spite of my failures and my mistakes, still being loved in spite of that. And I think that is a reflection of God's love, how he loves us. He loves us in spite of what we are. And I resonate with everything that Berenice and Ezra have been saying, that unless we have God's love, unless we have are experiencing God's love, we cannot actually give that to someone else in reality. So, I mean, the famous chapter of 1 Corinthians 13 about love is patient, love is kind, it endures all things, hopes all things, that is just a written down description of what God is. And if we have him, if we have God in our hearts, we will be able to love truly in the real sense of what love really is. An interesting thing that I've noticed about 1 Corinthians 13, though, is it's got all these beautiful good things that love is patient and kind and all those things, but it also says it does not rejoice in iniquity. That means true love doesn't tolerate evil. It doesn't tolerate mistreatment or abuse. And unfortunately, that's something that is very, very present in many relationships today. And that is mistreatment, abuse of love. And that's becoming more and more predominant in relationships, unfortunately. And the balanced view of love is, yes, love is patient and it is kind and it does endure all things, but it also does not tolerate mistreatment. It doesn't allow itself to be mistreated, and it does not mistreat others. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Now, just something short that I would like to say. Having mentioned 1 Corinthians 13, those points there, you know, we read over them when we get a little bit of a flutter in our hearts and our eyes blink and you think, oh, that's so nice. But those points are the very points that will either enable true love or not. So reading them and believing them is not going to do the trick. We need to embrace them. And this is where the gospel comes in. So true love, from our experience, was only possible when we learned how to surrender to that changing power of the Holy Spirit. And when you do that, that will give you the taste of true love, and then you grow into it. So true love isn't something that you're going to put your finger on it. That's it. Now I've got it. It's a growth experience, but it has to be, and only through the inner working of the Holy Spirit in each one's life. Oh, but it's a great thing.
Amen.
Yes.
No, because I think, well, I'm the single one here amongst all of us, the unmarried one. So I think for many of us, it's this massive mountain, this fearful thing that you have to climb and mount and get over. And so through your life, you hear, like I had said when I posed our first question, people tell you, like, you shouldn't be infatuated, that's not true love, or it's not about feely good stuff all the time. It's a balance, and people throw these massive words like you need to be responsible and so forth. And so share with us, what are some of the facts of true love? Richard and Jenny, maybe you can go first. Time around.
Sorry.
Who did you say go first?
Jenny?
Okay. Just to come back to something you just said about, like, true love is a principle and you must be responsible and it's not all about feelings and whatever. That is very true, that true love is a principle, and that principle is based on the foundation of that principle is God. So if we have God's love, we will have that principle of love, which loves even when the person we're loving isn't very lovable. But having said that, that doesn't mean that true love is void of emotion. And I think sometimes we're a little bit scared of that, because we've been told so much that you've got to be careful of emotions. Don't be led by emotions. Don't let your emotions rule you. Love is a principle. Make sure, and so, you know, we're gonna kill emotion so that we are safe. And that's not what God intended love to be. God intended love to be, yes, a principle that holds us fast and guides us, but it also is a beautiful experience of emotion at times. Now, that doesn't mean that when you're married, that you live on this wonderful plane of permanent emotional bliss. No, it's not like it. But there are times,
that's what people expect.
And then there are times when your feelings are just so strong for each other that you wonder, can they get any stronger? Can we love each other anymore? And then other times when it's just like, hello, like, good day, you know, whatever, let's just get on with life. So it's some of both. And we need to just, I think the burden on our hearts is, let's just find that balance where we're not off to the one side of being so afraid of emotion and only concentrating on principle, or the other extreme is so obsessed with emotion that we don't even consider principle.
Yeah, you know, we expect each other to be on the on switch all the time, but that's not, unfortunately, that's not the reality. We're not on all the time, and you know, for me, true love, the fact is, once that person have a down day, that you still love that person.
Yes.
You know, once, when I say down, for whatever reason, you know, whether it even is towards you, you know, but that love still conquers that yes, you need to give, you know, that person some room, or for whatever reason, but love still conquers that. And you know, I think why we are treating so softly, and why the message of love is such this big, enormous thing and this huge responsibility. It's because to a certain degree, there's some truth in that, you know, and how the best thing that I can give my wife is my heart, is to love her, you know, deeply, you know, purposefully. In Afrikaans, there's a word they say, aspris. You know, you must love, really love that person, you know, without reservations. So the where we come from in my dealings with especially young people, and maybe my wife as well, is when young people, you know, or they give the love, they give their heart to the person because that's the best you can give, you know. But the problem comes in is when you give it too soon, or the fact that you give it at all, you know, because the truth is, at a certain age, that person still thinks about, I mean, number one of it, it's football, or clothes, or, you know, for young men, six packs, you know, or whatever the silly reason. So how can you give the most precious thing, the thing that holds the most value, to a person who hasn't developed properly yet? And I think that's why we approach it with that sensitivity, but it's also exciting. There's excitement in it, yes, but it's also very sensitive. So yeah, the fact is, the fact of love is this, that it's the best you can give to that person, you know. Yeah.
I want to say a fact about true love. I want to tell the young people out there, and also maybe older married couples, true love is way better than what you imagine, and far better than what the movies portray. It's really, it is something that we need to embrace. It is something that we need to pursue. It's something that we need to pursue with a relentlessness. You need to go and fetch it and get it for yourself. I want to tell you, true love for us is a deep connection. Connection, physically, emotionally, spiritually, without the exclusion of one of those three. True love is not just physical attraction. However, it is not, definitely not void of physical attraction. And a one-liner that we've always shared with young people is, being in love and following God's method is the most exciting and the most fulfilling, including on the side of sexuality. People must not think that true love means a boring sexual experience. It does not go that way. The opposite is true. True love, God's way, is the only way where you get true physical fulfillment in a relationship. And I want to say another point about a fact of true love. It takes work and it takes effort. It's not something that falls out of the sky. And the work and the effort, the biggest work and effort, is the willingness to submit and surrender to Christ. Because when Jen is in an off mood, or as Ezra said, a bad day, am I going to respond to her and think that, oh, I have the right, because she's been grumpy, so I'm going to give it to her? That's a spirit of self. And true love does not allow that. And I don't have the strength within me to treat her nicely when she's been off, a little bit off. And I know we all know what that means. It simply requires a submission to Christ and say, Lord, I give you my frustration with grumpy Jen today. Help me to treat her the way you would be treating her. That's how we fight and work for true love.
Our world is filled with so much media, technology, books, music, series, what we see in our homes, with our family, our friends at work. Everyone is sharing different things. And so we read books, like I said, we listen to music, we listen to podcasts, people write biographies on their lives, on their relationships. And so sometimes we build this idea of love around that. what are some of the fictions of true love that are out there, or that you think we should be aware of and careful about?
You know, I think, sorry. Okay, Berenice, you go first.
Okay, they usually say love is blind. I'm very aware of blindness or less sight, but they say love is blind. And I feel that is fiction, because when you are unreasonable in your relationship, or forcing or pushing your way to have this relationship, and all the warning signs are out there, I feel that you are treading on dangerous ground to still be engaged in such a relationship. So through love also, it's not impulsive. So you're not just doing things because you want to do things. It's where you are actually patiently thinking about and working through things with someone, and not just blindly going into a relationship, or even moving within a relationship.
I think that very often what the message that we get from the movies, the media, the music and everything is that unless we have someone, we are incomplete. And yes, God did create man and woman, and he did say it's not good for man to be alone, but that doesn't mean that I'm nothing until I have a boyfriend or a husband or a wife or a girlfriend. And that's sometimes the message that we get. And when we look around, we see everybody has someone, and I don't have anyone. So I must be, there's something wrong with me, or I'm just not complete until I have that someone. And the reality is that God tells us in Colossians 1 verse 10, he says, ye are complete in him. In other words, in Christ, if we have Jesus, we are complete. We don't need someone else to complete us. In other words, it creates an impression that I can't be a person of value until I'm attached to someone. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that Christ is the one who makes us valuable, who gives us our value. And so we already have value. And I think the other problem that comes in with that thinking is that we absolutely need someone in our lives to be, in order to be someone, and we don't need someone. We need Christ, and then we allow him to fill that need that he himself created in his time. I don't know if you want to add anything to that thought.
No, I think you've covered that thought. Maybe one fiction that I can mention here is this concept about dating a whole lot of people to help you choose. Being friends with many people and having interaction with many people, yes, is good. But dating people and giving of your emotions and giving of yourself and being physically engaged with multiple people can be very harming to your marriage and to your own emotional well-being. So, we don't recommend that. And second to that is where people say chemistry is all that matters. No, it's not that way.
That's what the music tells us.
Chemistry needs to be part of the equation, but that comes at a later stage. So that is definitely a fiction. And we need to get it balanced, because unfortunately, as Jen has just said, the world has totally turned that on its head.
Pastor Isidore.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, the fiction of love does not pay your bills. People say we're gonna run away, or we're gonna go wherever we're gonna go, but how are you gonna live? Doesn't matter. We love each other, So it doesn't work like that's a fiction that love will just smooth over things and just make you forget about the realities of life. That is really a fiction. But at the same time, I think the truth is when I got married with my wonderful wife here. When we got married, and I came to the to the elders in the church, like the next week or whenever I came back, and they were all, I still remember them. They were all sitting there, like the old toppies, the old guys in church. And I asked him, why didn't you guys tell me? When I came back after this week, 2 weeks of marriage, I asked him, why didn't you tell me that marriage is so wonderful? I would have gotten married long time ago.
Oh, wow.
But I'm saying that because all we hear are the jokes, how difficult it is, how unpleasant it is, the jokes about your in-laws and your wife and all this stuff. That is what is taking the forefront now more than ever, because we've got media, we've got things just to say the first thing that pops into our head. But the truth is, it's so much more. And I want to challenge. I don't want to hijack Girl Positive, but I will for this moment. I want to challenge our married folk to celebrate marriage.
Yes.
Stand up front and have an afternoon of encouraging our younger folk, and then saying how the two of have a couple of couples with good stories. Have them come in and just share these stories of how they fell in love, and give that hope, that practicality to our young people. I hope I'm making you excited as I'm excited, because I'm saying this. I'm still a young young person. Amen. But we need more of that. We need to see that it's still real. It's not just Hollywood celebrating the so-called love, but we can celebrate it within our church buildings. So there's a challenge to maybe we can have this platform. I don't know. You guys are all creative people, but just celebrate love and marriage. More of that, please. I'm done hijacking Girl Positive.
Richard.
I just want to come in and follow what Ezra's just said. There's a fiction about true love, and that is that it's boring or that it's restrictive. It's goody relationship. No, I want to tell you, it's the deepest, it's the best, and I like what Ezra said. So often these topics are always full of you better not, you must not, be careful of this, that's going to happen, this is going to go wrong. I want to say marriage is so positive. I love it when young people get together and they work things out and they get married and things work. We need to have a positive encouragement. So the true love is not boring. True love is not too hard to get. That's the second fiction. It's too hard. It's impossible. You're talking about perfection. No. Just a willingness to submit to Christ and put the other one first. It is attainable. And that's what we should strive for, guys. We should not be striving for anything less. If we are Christians, especially Seventh-day Adventist Christians, God has given us the truth. And when we follow the truth, true love is right there for the picking.
Amen.
I know Jen has something that she really wants to share on her heart on this point. Your point about.
And it's a fiction. It's a fiction about relationships that I was raised with, and that is that girls mustn't initiate relationship with guys, because guys are the ones that need to do the pursuing. And so I've always advocated that, and spoken about it, that don't chase the guys and whatever. And I'm not now saying that we should chase the guys, but I have had a change of thinking in the last few years, and it goes like this. Because you have so many girls asking the question, how do I let a guy know that I'm interested in him without being forward, without appearing like I'm desperate, without
like his status, just like his status, then he should get it.
Yeah, so how do I let a guy know? How do we actually initiate without looking like we are the ones doing the chasing? And if you go to the Bible, you'll see the story of Ruth and Boaz. Ruth actually initiated a relationship with Boaz. She was the one that said, hello, notice me, I need help, I need a man, I need a husband, can you help me? Are you willing to help me? And then when Boaz became aware of that, he responded. he reciprocated. He then took action. He stepped in and he went and made plans. Can I take this woman? Do you want to? No, you don't want to? Okay, well then I'm going to have it. Okay, so he then reciprocated. So what I'm saying to young girls now is show yourself to be friendly, not forward and pushy and all over the guys,
Not flirty.
not flirty, but show yourself to be friendly. Put yourself out there. Initiate a conversation. Invite the person to come with you to go somewhere. Make yourself, let the person know that you are interested. Then see if there is reciprocity. Yeah, that's a big word. But basically what you want to see is, does the guy reciprocate? Does he like take the initiative and then start leading that relationship? So it's not wrong for a girl to let a guy know that she's interested. And I'm not saying go all over him and tell him I want to marry you kind of thing, but there's nothing wrong with, why don't you join us? We're going over here. Would you like to come along? And then see, how he then takes that. And I think that just that simple understanding might help a lot of young women who've been sitting at home waiting for the right guy to come and knock on their door, and he just never has knocked. Sometimes you have to put yourself out there, which can feel a little bit risky. But from what I'm gathering from the guys I've listened to and things I've seen, is that the guys are not put off by a girl that says, hey, would you like to join us? We're going over here or whatever. They're not put off by that, and they're not intimidated by that.
I think maybe just another fiction that might not always be a fiction, but love at first sight. Sometimes people feel that they have to at first sight know that this is the person for them. But true love really takes a look at the character, goes and inspect the character and check who that person is before we decide loving. But I also want to reflect quickly on Isaac and Rebecca's story, which was love at first sight. However, Rebecca saw Isaac praying. It was the connection that Isaac had with God that caused that love at first sight. So yes, we can have love at first sight. When that sight is, you are seeing that connection that that person has with God, and that in itself is attractive for you. But when we are just looking at the physical appearance and we're like, and that is the thing that we're thinking we're going to need to be to experience our love towards, then we're on the wrong track.
Yeah, I really like that thought.
But there's also a growing together.
Yes.
That you grow together in your spirituality. Praise the Lord. I'll tell those elders 2 weeks into my marriage, why didn't you tell me? I'll tell them still today. But today, my depth of understanding and of Christianity has grown as my marriage has grown as well. I'm on to solid foods now. But it's deeper. It's deeper now, and I love the fact that Richard earlier said that it's a depth that you hunger after, and that you can grow with each other. Berenice used to like Tab, then one day I came with Tab. Yeah, Tab. There's no caffeine. I came with Tab, and I said, one day I'm gonna, she likes Tab, and I brought her the Tab, and she said, no, I don't drink Tab anymore. And I'm like, what? But you like Tab? So we, in marriage and love, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you on your toes, and it really changes and grows with you and settles out. Yeah, I think the point.
I also want to make a comment, that in my personal relationship with Ezra, actually, it was like I used to call him a preacher boy. And that was actually the thing that really attracted me to him. Like, that was the thing. Back then, her friends said, oh, he's good looking. I'm like, really? Like, I didn't know. That I had was not physical appearance, none of that. It was literally just that I saw within this guy he had this deep desire to serve God. And for me, that was something that I was praying for in my personal life, for if I would get married, or if there would be someone that God has for me, that I'm sure that it must be a person that is serious about serving you. So I'm waiting on you, God, to tell me who's this person.
Thank you. So I'd like us to move over to the next 3 questions as we sort of reach now the middle point of our discussion. And I'd like for us to speak a little bit on the idea of levels in relationships or transitions. Some people, for example, they get to know, they meet, they decide they'd like to date or court. They commit to each other. 3 months into the relationship, they decide they're ready for marriage. Some people date or court for 7 years and they decide they're ready for marriage. Some people, unfortunately, at the end of the relationships, break it off. And so I'd like to ask the question, so can you speak to us a little bit about the idea of levels in relationships, friendship, you know, how does that start, and then getting into the dating or courting space, and then eventually to decide that you would want to mate for life. So how does that happen, and more or less when does that happen? Richard and Jenny, if you'd like to go first.
I think it might be a little bit difficult to actually pinpoint and say after a certain amount of time, you should be at this stage of your relationship, and after you can progress to the next stage, because every couple is different and the progression of their relationship is unique to them. I mean, Richard and I met and married within 1 year. We were met and married. We got engaged after 6 months. 6 months later, we were married, and that was nearly 30 years ago. We've been happy. We've had our ups and downs, but we have true love.
We just knew that it was right, and we knew
we
God,
did.
and we knew that God was with us. There was no ifs, no buts.
And then we have other friends who dated for like 7 years, and eventually, we had to say to them, you now need to get married.
Yeah.
Get married.
Hello.
Yeah. So I think for every couple, it's going to be different. And that's why we so much need God to be leading and directing, because he's the one that knows how a relationship needs to progress.
I think, though, if you want a little bit of a progression, if you like, to make it understandable, let's start with attraction. You meet, you're attracted. There's something there. There's either the spark, or there's
that enjoying that, appreciating the fact that he prays.
Yes, it's that initial attraction. Then what it should consist of is friendship. Friendship. Now, we all know that friendships are at different levels, and the same as with this one. And I think the caution that we need to present here is be careful that your friendship doesn't grow too quickly at an emotional level. And one needs to be careful of that. And unfortunately today with social media, because people are spending so much time interacting with social media, you tend to connect emotionally too quickly because you're not physically together. And in person. Yeah. And that is a danger. So when it comes to emotional connection requires commitment. So as emotional connection develops, it requires commitment. Therefore, you need to be either more serious or you need to be backing off. So, I'd say from friendship scenario situation, if there's growth in the friendship, the attraction stays, you like what you see, it's meeting your criteria, if I can say that, then your relationship can and should progress into a dating or a courtship scenario. And that is to determine whether you two are fit and matched and appropriate for marriage. And then I would say, when you have accepted that you want to marry this person, that's when engagement should happen. Now, very often out there, people get engaged to see if they are fit for marriage, and that's not the right way. Engagement is simply a statement: we are going to get married, And now we're going to prepare for the wedding in 3-4 months' time, not in a year's time. We don't advocate long engagement because engagement means we want to get married. So plan it and get married. Long engagements very often cause trouble. So that's...
If I can just butt in there, that doesn't mean that if you're engaged to someone that it's as good as married, that you can't back out of that relationship. If something comes up that you see, I can't marry this person, that doesn't mean you can't do that in engagement. Over to you guys, Ezra and Berenice.
Now, I just want to comment on that stages that prepare for the marriage and not only for the wedding. You know, really prepare for the I think one of the problems that, and we know that it's a bit sad now, and we know that our marriage figures within the church is probably on par with the world. Our divorce figures, at least, is probably on par with the world right now, which is very sad. You know, sometimes we get a partner, and we're like, Lord, I have this partner now. You can bless this that I've formed now. You know, and that's it's not right of us to ask that of God. You know, but it does happen. It does happen, you know. And like I say, there is that growth that can happen within, but we know the even before you get to that deep and intimate level of engagement and work together, you know, make sure it starts even before that. And then Jennifer rightfully said that you are a whole person, you know. A half and a half doesn't make one whole person. A whole person and a whole person makes a whole person. You know?
Yeah.
The whole person already. So find yourself and find God and ask Him before you step into that. But I just want to say on that, spend more time, you know, planning the marriage on your knees, most definitely, and maybe just on this step. I'm not going to give a point one, point two. I don't think that's what we are after. What we are after is what should at least happen. I think one of the things that should happen, get some mentors. We've got a wonderful married folk out there. You know, you don't have to like ask them, you want to sign here and be my mentor for the next 2 years, but like just emulate them, look at them, study them, see what you admire in them. We're not saying take everything, but there's some good qualities in the marriage folk, and then don't be shy to learn of others. Certainly, if 30 years, they must be doing something right. I don't think they'll they'll stick it out with each other for no reason. There must be some. So I think one of the steps are look at other couples and study them. And if you're going to study, you know, if you're going to study 4 years for a degree, why not study longer for your marriage?
Amen. Very right. I agree 100%.
Great thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to talk about friendship and just also share in our situation. So for me, the idea with friendship is to connect in groups and to see them, what they like with their families and what like with the other friends and how they respond to situations, whether stressful and happy or happy situations. And from my personal experience, one of another what's a green flag, like, yes, this is the guy you should marry, for me is this interaction with his mother, how gentle he was with her, how loving he was, how caring he was. Like, if he's like that with her, he's definitely, when I'm a little older, he's gonna probably do the same thing to me.
Yes, I was a mommy's boy.
So it's good to look at those things within your friendship, even before you decide, okay, I think we should court now. And then one thing, like in courtship, for me, in our personal experience, was the ability to work together as a team. In your courtship, are you able to work as a team? And also, because we are Christians, are we able to minister together as a team? Do we do this well? Do we find enjoyment in it? Do we find this is something that we can spend the rest of our lives with? Because you don't also want to marry, as a Christian, you don't want to marry someone that when you're in your marriage, you can no longer do the things that you love doing, and that is minister. So those are the type of things I think we should consider for the friendship stage and the courtship stage.
Is there
Yeah,
any?
if I can just say one other thing, Natasha, you know, we're dealing with so much here in a short time. What Pastor Ezra has said there is hugely important, and there's got to be. I don't think you can prepare too much for marriage. And like you said, you know, we study for 4 years at a drop of a hat for a life's work, but we just jump into marriage sometimes. So 100%. And I want to just caution people out there: be careful who you do get to help you. You need to be wise. As Christians, we need to be wise in who you get to help you, and you need to pray about that. Don't just grab the first help that you can get. And listen, listening to Oprah Winfrey and those TV shows is not going to cut it. Sorry.
Yes.
So just to remind everyone that is listening in, we are here with Richard and Jenny Lovemore and Pastor Ezra and his wife Berenice. And so we are looking at the question, true love, fact or fiction? And we've been sort of just taking some questions and trying to condense, probably for some of us, a life's work of presentations and sharing into an hour. So we do ask that you bear with us, but we are just here to just share some experiences, some advice, some perspectives on the concept, the exercise, and the idea of love. And so I just like to jump into our next question, and then we will have another one following that, and then we will summarize and end off. And so maybe this is the question many of us have been waiting for out there that's listening on the stream, and that is the idea of how our modern world 2020 fits into this entire exercise and mix of love. We have our social media that our young people are streaming to and connecting on. We have the quizzes that we take. We quickly see a quiz on Pinterest to Instagram, and you want to know, well, if this quiz gives me a good percentage, then this person must be for me. Or we look at the idea of feeling that we need to date multiple people in order to know, oh, well, maybe let me go with this one because I don't think that one is for me. And so we go through this whole process of trying to discover and explore where we fit in and what we actually want. And so my question is, how does this whole mix of pop and modern culture and postmodernism fit into our idea and the way that we apply good principles to our whole concept of true love and how we pursue relationships? Berenice and Ezra, would you like to go?
We were trying to debate who's going to speak. We must let Jenny and Richard speak. I think the sentiment is that if we're going to try and ignore it in today, we're going to, I guess, be more harmful. Yeah, be more harmful in that approach. Should it, media and pop culture and all these things, should it take the forefront? No. Is there better guidance? Yes. So, you know, I'm trying to think, online, is that the real life? And you might say it's you know, my first response is to say, no, it's not real life, but it's happening really. You know, like you're typing in and you sending, you're really doing that. So yes, it's real life. If you expose yourself online to a stranger, there's reality in that.
Yeah.
So I guess because I guess we drop likes and these type of things, and I don't know what else, thumbs downs, everywhere, you know. we think that that is affection being shown to us, but it's just a response that is there, you know, right? Yeah, and unfriend people, you know, it's. I guess what I'm saying, and what I do know when this question was posed, I recognize that this is probably the biggest part of the discussion that needs to happen. And the question I asked the other day was, why is it still carrying on? You know, and I think maybe the Lovemores do have a response there. Why are all these Instagrams and all these things, why is it carrying on? Is it working? You know, it doesn't look like it's slowing down. And obviously now with the pandemic, it doesn't look like it's slowing down at all. So maybe I would allow the Lovemore just to respond to that as well.
Well, I think technology is here to stay. It's something that we're going to have to get used to and learn to manage in a healthy way. And I think that's the individual responsibility that each person has to take for themselves, is how much time am I spending on social media? How much weight am I putting onto how many views I got and how many likes I got and how many follows I have? How much weight am I putting on that? Am I allowing myself to be consumed by all of this technology, or am I managing to keep it in balance and to keep it under God's control and that it doesn't rule me? In other words, it's a tool that we can use to meet people, to connect with people, but it shouldn't be something that is just ruling our lives and we're so dependent on it. And we check our phone every half an hour to see if someone else has liked our picture and if we have any more followers on Instagram. You know, I think all of us have gotten into that. And you know why? It's because it is actually addictive. Mm-hmm. It literally is addictive.
It was designed that way.
Every time you swipe, you know, there's a release of dopamine in your brain that happens, and you get addicted to that kick, that hit of dopamine. And so actually what we have to do is we have to practice self-discipline and leave your phone in another room. Discipline yourself not to keep checking it. Discipline yourself not to be on it all the time, or just before you go to sleep, or the first thing when you wake up in the morning. It's a thing that we have to learn to manage, or it is going to manage us. Now, having said that, like I said in the beginning, technology is here to stay. We can't get rid of it. We can't say, chuck your phone away. You can't, you know, get rid of Instagram. You can't connect with people that way. This is how people are connecting. And especially during lockdown and all of that, where we're not allowed to connect with people in the ways we have in the past. We are not allowed social gatherings and all of that thing. People are on their phones more. People are on technology more because that's the place where we're connecting. We just have to make sure that we're not allowing it to rule us, and also that we're not allowing it to make us compromise on principle. So let's say like an app like Tinder, where we meet people, and I know Tinder in the past has had a reputation for being a place to hook up for sex mainly, but apparently that's changing, and it's now becoming just a place for people to meet other people and for dating and things like that. So should a Christian be on Tinder? Yes and no. It's probably not the best place to meet a fellow Christian because it's a secular dating app. But having said that, if you can manage your use of it in a healthy way, then it may well be a resource that you can use to meet someone if that's what God wants for you. Let God lead you in that, but just make sure that you're not compromising your principles. And one of the main principles is that the one that's found in 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14 that says, do not be yoked together unequally with unbelievers. And on a dating app like Tinder, where 80%, 90% of the people on there are not Christian. So technology is a tough one because we can't live without it, but it has a tendency to take over, and each one of us is going to have to manage that for ourselves.
I think before we go back to, I see Ezra's hand is up. I just want to say one caution that we need to have with social media. And Ezra, you asked the question, why is it not going away? Why is it getting worse? It's because it's designed that way. It's a dopamine rush. It's also a break from your reality. Now,
It's an escape.
many people's lives are broken. People are hurting. Most people that get into wrong relationships are those where mother, father were either absent or treated you badly or whatever. We don't have time to go into all of those, but past hurts and an emptiness and a loneliness leads people, and people fall into this trap. So it's an escape. It's an escape from reality. The devil was very clever in his design of this. So it's quick. It's a click of a button and I can be somewhere else. That's why it's not going to go away. It's so addictive. It's so attractive. I can see nice pictures. I can instantly hear music. I can see and scroll through what everybody's doing on Instagram. Wow, I can see so much. One danger is that we need to ask ourselves is, how much am I giving of myself? How much am I exhibiting to the world of myself, which, by the way, should be reserved for family and close friends?
Or that you wouldn't give to strangers on the
Exactly.
street.
You know, if you're at a big gathering, you're not going to go around to everybody and splab about what you did last week and what's hurting you. But, you know, we can sometimes put it on Facebook. Oh, you know, this and this and that's happened to me. My dog died. My cat died.
And I ate this for breakfast.
Yeah, and, you know, if I don't get enough likes or enough, oh, shame, sorry, your kitty died. You know, we become emotionally drained kind of thing. So, yeah. I would like to say, Natasha, you posed the question. You didn't use the word the role of third parties today, but in our preparation discussions, and this is what we're speaking about, the role of third parties. I just want to say, and I really don't mean this in a generic or a cliche sense, but the best third party is to have God in this game. And second to that is, I think, Berenice or somebody to help you through. Go and put your thoughts through. Ask other people what they think. So we're not throwing out social media completely, but you need to be very careful because there are very negative effects on it. So educate yourself.
And be responsible.
Yep.
Pastor Ezra?
No, he said it. He said, I actually just wanted to make sure that that's being said. You know, be conscious of what you share, you know. Just be real. Like, does this sound insensitive? Nobody cares about your oat smoothie this morning. But we just
I love
I don't know, sorry to those who had oat smoothies this morning. You know, we like because you're our friend. That's why we like. We don't care about this. We like you. You know, people love you. You know, not the stuff you're trying to put out. But I think what we're doing with this specific question, Natasha, we're just wanting to open that door. You know, but unfortunately, our viewers, they need to walk in. We want to open that door, and they need to explore themselves. Open that door in the sense of, here's this, but here's danger to it as well. Yeah. So just be conscious of how you share that, you know, because one of the other truths are, if I put everything on and we take selfies, the two of us, you know, and now we break up, nobody wants to come into this anymore because we just had all this and holidays and so it just makes it difficult. You're making it difficult for yourself through love. You know, then people judge you by the last profile you had with this one, but didn't you want, you know? So it just complicates. The truth is, it complicates things more.
I think,
sorry, Richard.
No, Berenice, go ahead.
Can you?
I didn't say anything. I was just agreeing with my husband.
I just wanted to say this. As Ezra was speaking, I actually thought of this. You know, our privacy is a privilege. What happens to us personally is not to be splabbed around the world.
Yes.
It's personal. And it's your privilege to be personal. And it's your privilege to share it with those that are dearest and closest to you. When you throw yourself out into the, can I say, the media frenzy, to be judged, ridiculed, whatever you call it. I think you're actually undervaluing yourself. We are so precious to God. And you know what comes to mind is that verse in the Bible where it says, you don't cast your pearls to the swine. That which is precious and which is personal is for you and those that really care for you. And I think we do ourselves harm. We make ourselves emotionally thin. This thought is just coming to my mind as I'm speaking. You actually drain yourself and empty yourself of who you are, and that should be given to somebody special, to those that, can I say, deserve to know more of you. So I think we need to place a higher value of ourselves and also value our experiences and our emotions. That is who we are. And let's not splab it out there. Get near to God. And when we get near to God, our need for splabbing and finding all the likes and whatever you call it, those things will dissipate and actually disappear, because I need God's approval. I don't need 10,000 Facebook clicks.
Amen.
Okay, as we are moving towards the end and actually concluding our discussion this afternoon, so now I've been through my process. I've met people. I've created friendships, or I've built friendships with people. I think our neighbors are busy next door, so sorry if you can't hear me so clearly. And then we say, I'm in this friendship, we're in this space, and we are onto something good. Can each of you as couples give us some kind of, maybe something like a quick guide? So if I'm now in this space and I'm saying, wow, I met this person and we're onto something good, where do I go from here?
I think the very first thing for us is to, as we've been saying, ask God to take the lead. I can recall that in our early days, I had actually prayed, dear Lord, if this is not of you, take these feelings that I have towards Israel away from me, if this relationship is not from you. So we really have to be diligent seekers of God's word, praying diligently and asking God's way, even though it probably won't be something we would want, but we must really be willing to accept God's will. I'm not sure if I should do all our points now, or okay. So then the second one is point also that we've been talking about is that, will this union allow or increase my love for God? So will this union increase my love for God? So will my husband encourage me to love God more, and will I be able to encourage him to love God more? Then thirdly, don't rush. Don't rush into anything. Rather review or look at all of your, looking at our options. Look at you, not in that way. I'm saying look at this relationship and its effects. So when you look at this relationship, what effect will this union have on my holistic health, on his health, and our potential family health? What influence? Those are the options you need to look at. Yeah. And then you also need to, although you're on something good, you must be sure that you've completely reviewed the character of this person, and you've really taken time to look at the character of the person.
Those are very practical, and I really appreciate what you said there, Berenice. I just had one thing to say when you spoke about asking God to be in charge. You know, we had a young man, or was it a young lady? I can't remember, at one of our seminars where he came to us and said, you know, I really like this guy, but he's not of our faith. And, you know, I'm really praying and asking God whether I should marry this guy or not. And, you know, coming to God when your will is not surrendered, when you are not neutral in the matter, is just a formality. And it's actually a dry formality, especially when you go in and praying that the Lord will reveal something to you that He's already spoken to. He said, do not be unequally yoked.
Yeah, we said, well, why are you even praying about it?
God has said so. He's not going to answer you again. So, but coming back to Ezra's genuine point of Lord, if this relationship is not for me, then please stop it. We really need to be neutral. We need to be willing. So before you pray that prayer, are you willing that the Lord will, if He needs to, will you accept that He closes it? Otherwise, that's just words. And we must really check our hearts, because honestly, what Berenice has just mentioned, this is serious stuff. This is not light stuff. This is not tick box stuff. This is be true and honest to yourself. Because like she said, marriage is not about me. It's about me making somebody else's life better and adding value to that life. And then it's even more important that this relationship is going to bring new life into the world. By our decision and choice and action, we bring a new life into the world. And are we going to be able to do what is best and fair for that person? So there's one other thing that I would like to say. When you feel that you're onto something good, you really need to know yourself. You need to know yourself. And Ezra, you touched on it earlier. We need to be emotionally healthy. We need to be in Christ, in the process of being healed. The problem with many marriages today, you have two broken people desperate for something good in life. We come together with all of our emotional baggage. We bring our two suitcases of garbage together, and then we think that the wedding bells and, excuse the straightness, the sex after marriage is going to make all things well. Believe you me, that just makes it 10 times more complicated. And so being emotionally healthy and well, knowing yourself is imperative.
Because healthy people make healthy relationships. So
absolutely.
Two healthy people coming together will create a healthy relationship.
And having said that, let's not be afraid to put pen to paper. Put pen to paper. We need to write down my strengths and my weaknesses. And I need to be going to God with those. And then when you've done your own, you need to also make a list of the things that you would like to see in a life partner. Not that needs to be the absolute gospel truth. And, so Johnny meets 8 out of the 10 points. Because he fails on 2, I'm walking away from him. You know, we've seen many beautiful young people break down relationships that could work because of 1 or 2 points. Your list is not the answer. The reason why we say work on a list, it just means you have applied your mind and you've allowed God to lead. Remember, you are not going to marry Mr. or Miss Perfect. Marriage is about helping you get onto that road. And that is really what marriage is about. It's
about balancing you
it's
as
about
a person.
balancing character. So don't expect Mr. or Miss Perfect. What you want to find is like Berenice said, she saw in Ezra a genuineness, a genuine love for God, and more than that, is someone that is willing to change. That to me is imperative.
So you're not looking for perfection, but you're looking for sincerity. You're looking for someone who's willing to acknowledge when they've made a mistake and who's willing to change and willing to grow and wanting to grow, instead of someone that's reached this level of what you think is perfection.
Now, I just want to say, I think one of the things that you can add on to whatever your list is, and there's no, I love that, Richard, there's no tick box.
No.
Like you say, you're applying yourself. But one of the things you should not be afraid to is to lean into what is not comfortable. Because sometimes having that discussion with that person, because have growth ever happened when you sit in your chair and it's just growth happens when there's one elder says uncomfortability.
Challenges.
Yeah, when there's challenges, that's when growth what happens, diamonds, we know the thing where diamonds get fall under pressure, so if you're onto something good with that person and you believe you're onto something good, but that person can't have a hard discussion, as wonderful as marriage is, believe it or not, it's actually some hard discussion that needs to happen there as well.
Yeah.
So, but you can't have it outside of marriage. Run the other direction, like that way. You guys were going around that way. So I think that is one thing to add there. Lean into what is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Very good.
I really like that. I'm writing that point down here because that's something I want to remember. And very often we're just too afraid to confront things that we see that bother us, and so we either just don't confront them and then they become a problem in the relationship later, or we just leave it and the relationship breaks apart when it didn't need to, if we had just confronted the issue.
Actually, Ezra, your point has just led me to think true love actually means that you will.
No? Yeah. It's frozen.
Richard, can you just repeat that point again? Our connection broke a little bit there.
Yeah, sorry, our internet is a bit unstable. I see it just said so now. The point that I made is dealing as couples, dealing with issues and with maybe weaknesses between us. That is what makes us grow, and that is true love. True love is willing to actually point out and take on, like Ezra said, leaning into these difficult things rather than avoiding them. Why? Because it impacts on our eternity. It impacts on our wellness. It impacts on our ability to reach out to others. And very importantly, it impacts the way that we parent and the way that we raise children. Because remember, what we're talking about here is all a precursor in bringing those precious little things into the world. And they don't choose to come into this world. We choose them to come into this world. And when we are messed up and broken up, it's actually unfair. So we have a duty to deal with those uncomfortable things. Ezra, very good point, and I'm glad that you raised it.
And just from my perspective, for me, that has been something that I've struggled with because I'm too afraid of confrontation. So that is an area that I've had to grow in. And yeah, if that's something that you need to put on your list of knowing yourself, like I don't like confrontation, this is something I need to work on, then the relationship is giving you opportunity to grow in that area.
Amen.
Pastor Ezra and Berenice, would you like to maybe last words, maybe any last comments that you'd like to make, and then we can end off maybe with Richard and Jenny also giving their last comments as we close off our discussion this afternoon.
I think I speak for both of us when we say have these discussions. Talk about these things. And often I've seen that we have these discussions in a very informal manner amongst our friends and so on. But it shouldn't consume you. Don't lose your individuality running after Mr. Wrong and Mrs. Wrong. You're still a person. In marriage, yes, you guys become one. But what makes me love Berenice is because she's Berenice, and not just because she's a copy of. I would never marry me. I would be so unhappy. And I thank God for her being so gracious. Because I see, my faults and all those things. So I want to encourage the especially our young folk. Don't change into Christ. Don't change into what the other person wants you to be or what social media wants you to be. True love will accept you, and I know you know what I'm talking about, and I'm not talking like the world right now, but true love accepts, you as 1 Corinthians 13 states, it accepts you with all those unfinished blemishes. And and I know our females, our sisters, They look at us sometimes and think, ah, here's a nice project for me to work on. But it's that growth and that deepening and that love that we have for one another. But remember who's the source of it all. And I pray especially for our young people in this age. It's really difficult and
It's rough out there.
Yeah.
It's not difficult, it's rough.
step wrong, your reputation. People see your reputation before they see you. They see your history because it's online. Before they see you. So yeah, choose carefully. And I oftentimes see that I'm in over this one. I oftentimes see people being hurt, and that's obviously not what we want. Nobody wants that for anybody. But the truth is, hurt people. People that's hurt others, and that. But it also happens. So my counsel would be protect what is precious. Protect your heart. Give it to God. Not to a guy that's worried about hair gel and a girl that's worried about outfits should match. Give it to God, and He will take care of you.
I think I just maybe want to speak to the young girls or to the young people, like I'm talking high school age and so on. Find yourself
Yes.
in Christ first before you even think about having a relationship. Life is so much fun. Yes, life is beautiful and fun in a marriage as well when you are emotionally matured for it. But as being a child, being a young person, being a teen, enjoy just that simplicity of life and find yourself and get to know who you want to be in life before you even consider having a relationship with anyone.
Amen.
Oh, that was, I cannot underscore that more. That's very wise counsel.
Both of you, yeah.
Yeah, both of you. And yes, our world is a mess, Natasha, and you said this rough out there. Marriages are in a terrible situation. You know what's been the saddest for me and Jen as we've had the privilege of going around and presenting seminars on relationships is how many young folk, and I'm not talking about young folk, I'm talking about young adults that want nothing to do with marriage because of what they see in their own homes and around them. And I want to break that mold here. And I want to say to the young people out there is true love out there. There is happiness out there. We need to go and find it. And the first step of finding it is what Berenice has just said. Get your own heart sorted. Get your own heart sorted. And Ezra, you spoke about hurting people hurt people. That is so true. We are all hurt. Why we all hurt, we all have issues, is the devil makes it his point to make sure that all of us carry those wounds. And it's our duty. And so very often those wounds are not our fault. Somebody did it to me. So it might not be your fault, but it is your problem. And we need to go to Christ with our problems and have them solved. So I want to encourage young people. It's not boring to have Jesus in your life. It's not restrictive. It's the most freeing thing of all. Jen and I are so happy. Why? Not because we're good people and because she's hot and because she's beautiful. No, it's because we love God and we've got God in our relationship. If you strive for that, God will lead you into happiness. There is no other way. There's no happiness out there in the world. And you know what? We also need to step up to the plate, educate ourselves, find out the truth, get counsel, and get on with it.
Be responsible.
And be happy.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it. Make a work of it. You know, when we want to start a business or work out how to blog and how to get stuff, we'll go and do research and we'll work to get it. We need to do the same. So I want to encourage young people and couples out there whose relationships maybe have stalled. Go back and see yourself before the cross and allow God to start building and fixing. But this is a positive thing. And we want to say, Viva for good marriage. Viva for
Amen.
good relationships. Let's show the world that it does work and that it can work.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ezra and Berenice, and then Richard and Jenny Lovemore. You have mentioned so many valuable things. You've reminded us of so many valuable things this afternoon. There's quite a few comments on the stream. People saying it's so nice to see our friends, Richard and Jenny. Thank you for the good points. What you have shared with us is so valuable and interesting. So there's quite a few comments. So we'd like to just say thank you to everyone that's been listening this afternoon. Thank you for your comments and sharing your perspectives. And so I was going to want to share and bless us with a lovely special item this afternoon. But as the world has it out there, it's not Sabbath for everybody. So there's a little bit of noise outside my house. I will post the special item on the Girl Positive page after our discussion. So please enjoy that and be blessed by that afterwards. And then what I'd also like to mention is for those of you that feel you need a little bit more information, a little bit more advice or assistance on where you are at in your journey of true love, please inbox us on the Girl Positive Facebook page. Maybe give us one reason why we can maybe send you some amazing material that has been sponsored to Girl Positive for the month of August. Here's a very interesting and helpful resource book called Smart Love. It's by Nancy Van Pelt. So if you would like this book, please inbox us on the Girl Positive Facebook page and we will send you this book. Once again, thank you so much, Richard and Jenny Lovemore, as well as Pastor Ezra and Berenice for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been great. And so I would love to do a closing prayer for us at this moment in time. Dear Lord, thank you for an opportunity that you have given us to have a session where we could discuss and discover and share perspectives of what true love is all about and what the facts are about it, what the fictions are about it, and really where it is that we can go in not just the relationships that we have in the situations we are in concerning the heart, but really where we can take ourselves with you if we allow us to. Lord, I pray that you may bless our relationships, those that you approve of, but that you may also rebuke us with love and show us and teach us the way in which is pleasing in your sight. May you go with us now, dear Lord, and I pray that you may bless those who have signed into our live stream this afternoon. Many of us might have even more questions after this presentation, or maybe we could have actually just allowed you to work through us to answer someone here today. But I pray that whatever the case may be, that your presence may go before us. This is what we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Thank you so much to all of you. And once again, to those that joined us on the live stream, if you would like the book, Smart Love by Nancy Van Pelt, please just inbox us on the Girl Positive Facebook page. Give us maybe one reason why you think that this book would be helpful to you on your journey of true love, and we will send it over to you. Thanks so much once again for joining us this afternoon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.